A man who carries the Constitution every day, right there it is, because he knows who he works for. We the people. We the people. And let me tell you, a lot of people say, oh, Blaine, you're going to have another of your bash Barack Obama events. I said, no. This started, unfortunately, in the last 3 months of the term of President George Bush. And when he said, I knew I probably wasn't going with my gut when I felt like I was abandoning the principles, the free market principles. Well, you're right, Mr. President. You should have stuck with your gut. But when they put the first bailout bill forward, we were all wondering where Congressman Bartlett would be. He is a registered Republican. Well, the way we're set up, you know, Republicans are supposed to do what Republicans do, and Democrats are supposed to do what Democrats do. So I called his wife, Ellen. What a phone call that was. I said, I can't get a hold of the congressman, but Ellen, I know you would tell me. I know he's a Republican. I know the president right now is a Republican, President Bush. He's putting forward a bailout proposal. Is he going to vote with his party? He says, well, let me tell you where the congressman's vote is. It's a little up in the air. It's somewhere between no and hell no. He has been consistent. He has been consistent with his representation of this district. Come to the podium, I'm proud to introduce Congressman Roscoe Bartlett of the 6th District. There he goes.
There you go. Thank you all very much for coming out. You know, we've had a long series of votes now on bailout packages and stimulus packages and so forth. And when we came to the stimulus package, you know, I have 10 kids and 17 grandkids and 2 great-grandkids. When every one of these things came up, I asked myself, is the temporary good we might get from this worth further burdening my 10 kids, my 17 grandkids, and my 2 great-grandkids? And every time the answer came up, no. So I voted no on every one of these. The little anecdote that Blaine mentioned started with calls on the stimulus package. I thought that was a great stimulus package for China. We don't have any money. We don't have any money in our country, so we were going to borrow that money from China, or if we couldn't, we were just simply going to print it. So I thought it was a good bailout, a good stimulus package for China. And then if people took their $600 and bought stuff, almost all the stuff you can buy, go look in the store, try and find something that's not made in China. So I thought it was a pretty good stimulus package for China and didn't think it was much of a stimulus package for us. I asked my friend Trent Franks, I said, how are your calls going? My calls were going at least 50 to 1 against it. Oh, he said about 50-50. I said 50-50. You know, I thought, gee, what's going on here? How can his district, he's a very conservative Republican from Arizona. How can that be so different than my district? Yeah, he said about 50% no and 50% hell no. So this last vote we had, I sat down by John Dingell. I've made some good friends on the other side of the aisle. Probably it's my first degree was in theology, where I learned to love the sinner and hate the sin. So I have some good friends on the other side of the aisle. I said, John, how are your calls going on this? Oh, he said, almost all of them against it. I said, and you're going to vote for it, John? Yeah, he said, it's a bitter pill. They got to swallow it. But, you know, these people genuinely believe that government is our salvation. They really believe that they will spend your money more wisely on your behalf than you possibly could. You know, we're one person out of 22 in the world, and we have a fourth of all the good things in the world. And I ask myself, how come? You know, we're no longer the hardest working people in the world. Just drive around and watch the people bending their back and sweating, and you don't see a lot of white faces, you don't see a lot of black faces, you see mostly Hispanics, don't you? Almost half of our children are born out of wedlock, so family values is not what it was once in our country. We don't have a lot of respect for technical education. This year China will graduate 7 times as many engineers as we graduate. The bright young people in our country are increasingly going into pursuits that I tell them are potentially destructive. They're becoming lawyers and political scientists. Sorry, lawyers and political scientists out there. But we've got enough of each of those. Thank you very much. Yeah, we need our young people to go into science, math, and engineering. So I asked myself, what is so different about our country that in spite of all of these things where other people are now doing a bit better than we still are the premier country in the world? And I think that I really think it's this Constitution and the Bill of Rights. You know, there's no other Constitution, there's no other Bill of Rights that gives such civil liberties to the people. And I think that all these civil liberties, you know, all these gifts came from God. When our founding fathers came to this country, they said something that was very, very important. We read it today, and it doesn't say much. You know, it doesn't mean much, but boy, it meant a lot to them. They all came from countries that had a king or an emperor, if you think about it, and they claimed divine rights, that the rights came from God to the king, and he would give what rights he wanted to his people. We came to this country, we said, gee, that's wrong. That's wrong. The rights come from God to the people. We're going to give to the king, to the government, what rights we think they ought to have. And in our Constitution, those were very limited rights.
Right, yeah.